And hi, Lindsay, how are you doing?
Hi,
Nice to
good. How are
see you.
you?
Thanks for coming back.
Thanks. Yeah, thank
We're
you.
doing our thing. So I made the donation this week to Music Cares, and I think it was $765 or something like that that went into Music Cares. So that was great. And anybody who signs up from this point on, I'll just scoop it all out and put it back in there. So that's nice. That's gonna, hopefully help somebody with their, rent or, something like that for a little bit. Music Cares is pretty incredible. If you guys haven't checked out what they provide emergency services for anybody who are musicians. So if somebody has a dental emergency, if there's a death in the family, if somebody's saxophone gets stolen, like they have these incredible grants that are actually pretty easy to get. You don't have to wait 6 months. Like they have like emergency grants and stuff. So, anyways, you guys all did that. Thank you. So I'm going to mute everybody, and Melissa.
Okay, so I'm going to share screen. Welcome, everybody. And give me 1 second to share this. And I'm not going to watch the chat, so I'm going to let Brenda watch the chat for questions, and we'll do questions at the end if that's okay with everybody today. So feel free, as questions pop up, just put them in the chat, and then once I stop sharing screen and we're kind of done, then we'll start addressing questions. But welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Melissa Slocum, and we are going to talk a little bit about business today. So a little bit about me here. Hopefully all of you can see the screen that I'm sharing, and you can see a little bit of information about who I am and where I've been. Part of my leadership story is about being a guide for people. So I grew up on and around Lake Michigan. And so lighthouses have become an important part of my life, and understanding the Maritimes and doing a lot of paddling and kayaking, canoeing, and boating in my lifetime. So a lot of the references that you will see in this presentation are a little bit nautical. So if you understand those, great. If you don't, not a big deal, because those are just images and things to help us put some things into context. But a little bit about me. I did start off playing piano at age 5.5, and I played all the way through my senior year of high school. And I got burned out because I was just playing competitively, and I had no connection left to really the music that I was supposed to be playing. And I finally told my teacher, I'm done. This isn't fun anymore. And she was pretty devastated. And when I went to college, I decided to pursue business and organizational communication is what I fell in love with. So that is my background. That is my degree area. And I ended up working in the nonprofit world and for churches for 16 years first, doing a lot of things, not just business and communication and fundraising and organizing volunteers, but also music ministries and all the things that come along with working in a church. And then when my children were young and babies and toddlers, and they needed more of my attention and time at home, I got out of church work and went back to school, got my certification in piano pedagogy, which is piano teaching, and opened my own studio, which I've been doing now for almost 17 years. So now, as I've done not just running my own successful studio and have a few other things that I do, I also do coaching part-time, small business coaching. And I work with everybody, not just creatives, but I have a longstanding relationship as well with a tech company up in Wisconsin. And I'll be working again for them this summer doing business development. So I'm not familiar just with solo entrepreneurs, but I'm also familiar with what it takes to run a business of up to around 40 employees. And I've done a lot of great work around small businesses up to around 40 employees. So that's a little about me. So today we are headed to figuring out how to read our maps. What are the business cycles and systems that support those cycles? We're going to talk about that first. We'll talk about orienteering. What are our options when we do face change in markets and in the economy? How to stay afloat. This will be a big portion of what I talk about today. And finally, tacking. If you're a sailor, you know what tacking is. If you're not a sailor, that's okay. Tacking is adjustments. And how do we make small adjustments in order to continue to move forward, not necessarily in a linear way, but to still make progress and move forward. Before we get into the whole map reading, there's a few things, basic things about business that I want everyone to sort of understand. And the first thing is that all businesses have life cycles. So all businesses go through these cycles. The timelines might be different depending on the type of business that you're in or the size of your business, but it's important to know that all businesses have a creation and startup phase. That creation and startup phase for most businesses lasts anywhere from 2 to 3 years. So, most businesses, a lot of people think, oh, if I set up my business and if I make it through the first year, I'm good to go. No, we know from the statistics, most small businesses fail within the first 2 years. So, you really do need to make it to year 3 before we consider you out of that creation and startup phase. It's a difficult time, but if you can make it past year 3, usually you enter another cycle. There can be factors that change all of these, by the way, but generally speaking, this is the pattern for most businesses and their life cycles. A lot of businesses enter a growth phase that can be anywhere from a year to 10 years to 20 years. It just depends, again, on the business owner, and the market conditions. Then we often see a maintenance and plateau period. Again, that can last anywhere from a month to 20 years. It just depends. Decline is definitely a part of the cycle, and some of us choose to be in decline while others experience decline, and it's a very frustrating experience. Again, decline can last a relatively long period of time. It can last 20 years, again, depending on the market conditions and the business. Death and failure phase for most businesses happens very quickly. That's the only time period where we see things happen like almost in a heartbeat. So, death and failure can often happen within a few months or within a year. Sometimes people do things as business owners to prolong that phase, and it's usually actually more detrimental to the employees and to the business owner and to everything around that business, including if you have creditors and loans. It's a harmful thing to do to actually try to delay that and prolong that death experience. And what most people don't know is that you can have regeneration and new life after a death and a failure. And so a lot of people are afraid of their business dying. They're afraid of failure because they don't really understand how they can find new life and generate new ideas and new creativity, and start the process over again. So, what I want you to do first is identify where is your business right now. So, take a look at that list and identify where are you. So, if you are in the creation and startup phase, you might say, okay, well, I'm in my first within my first 3 years, and that's totally fine. Um, I am currently in maintenance plateau, and that's where I've been for probably about 8 years is maintenance and plateau. Um, and then the next step is to identify where you want your business to be. So I'm in a unique position where I actually want my business to start to decline because I'm in a life phase right now where I'm ready to tackle new challenges. I'm an empty nester finally, and I'm ready to do some other things. And so I'm actually like excited about decline and having this part of my business, in terms of this particular studio, the physical location and everything I'm doing, start to really slow down, shut down, and go into that death cycle so that I can regenerate and build something new in a few years. So it's important to identify where you are now and where you want to be. And it might seem strange for me to say I want to be in decline, but again, it depends on your life situation. You might say, oh, I never want to be in decline, but actually, decline can be a really sweet spot depending on what you're hoping to do and where you are in your life. So don't discount any of these cycles. They're just cycles, and you don't have to stay in any one of them forever. But it's important to not be afraid of the decline, the death, and the failure, because usually that breeds even more creativity and even more innovation. Just ask any brand that has rebranded themselves, and you'll find that they have gone through that experience, and it's been a positive thing in the end. So, we want to talk about also not just business cycles, life cycles, but we need to talk a little bit about what is a normal market versus an abnormal market. Under normal market conditions, a business plan will be kind of your skeleton for your business. It'll be your guide. It's something that you have to help you secure loans. Might be something that your small business attorney, if you have one, will ask to see or will help you create. But it's something that you have to put a fair amount of research and a fair amount of information into about your industry and about your particular demographics, your local market, and a whole bunch of other information and data goes into that business plan along with what you want to do. So, under normal circumstances in a normal economy, normal market conditions, business plans are kind of the backbone that we operate from. We have traditional options for financing if we need loans or lines of credit. We typically set annual and quarterly targets financially and for other types of goals. Traditional marketing strategies and sales strategies will work usually fairly well, and our customers will have pretty typical client journeys within our business and have pretty typical customer experiences. And we'll experience normal fluctuations in the market, but we'll be able to adjust and handle those quite well, quite easily because they're fairly normal and they're fairly slight. Now, we also have abnormal market conditions, and that's where we are now. That's where we were also during COVID. So, it's important to understand we are not in a normal market, period, right now. And if you've seen what's happening in the business world and with stock markets, people are hesitant and a lot of people are hedging and a lot of people are really holding on to cash or they're divesting or they're reinvesting elsewhere. So these are all things that we need to maybe be aware of, not only globally, but then we also are going to take a look at our local markets. We'll talk about that in a little while. So, in abnormal conditions in markets, we have to think about not just having a business plan, but having alternate plans. And those are going to be emergency plans. And we're going to talk about those today. Also, during abnormal market conditions, we tend to have few or no options for financing because oftentimes interest rates are just out of reach and not recommended for us to take out big business loans at high interest rates or rack up high credit card debt. So your options for financing tend to shrink during abnormal market times, or you just will find that there are no grants available, there are no scholarships available, there's just no money available. And certainly with cuts that we're seeing in the US government, that's what we're finding out right now. In abnormal conditions, we don't even worry about any actual growth or financial targets or meeting goals. Our only job is survival during these types of conditions and making sure we stay afloat. Non traditional marketing and sales strategies tend to have to be employed, and we have to get creative because, again, things are a little bit chaotic in abnormal times. Think again back to COVID. And we need to start getting creative about what our marketing strategies are and think about how to sell a little bit differently because people are going to have different mindsets, different responses, and they're going to need different things during these times of chaos and crisis. So that also means that our customers are going to have different journeys with us. They're going to have non traditional experiences with us, and that's actually a good thing. But we also see wild fluctuations in markets and conditions during these times. Sometimes we'll see for a while a big upswing and we'll think, oh, yay, we're back. And then all of a sudden we'll see another major downturn. That's normal during these times. So, those are just a couple of things to keep in mind today as you think about your business and where you are and where you want to be.